powered by the Montana Television Network. This is the 10 o'clock news on Q2, Montana's news leader.
Good evening, everyone. Thanks for joining us this Tuesday. I'm Jeanelle Slade.
And I'm Russ Riesinger. It may be May, but winter weather plagues our forecast, possibly pushing off spring travel over the Beartooth Pass.
Now, the town of Red Lodge not immune to late spring snow, but with every extra inch, it means a slower start to spring travel and tourist season.
It is one of the key events that ushers in spring. The goal to get the Beartooth Pass open for Memorial Day weekend.
Q2's Mitch Laggy was in Red Lodge today to tell us if that's going to happen.
The date? May 21st, 2019. And it's snowing in Red Lodge, Montana. It's not too out of the ordinary to see snow in May across Montana, but a foot seems like a little much. Memorial Day weekend is just around the corner, and Red Lodge, a community that makes a lot of its money during the summer tourism season, is hoping that the Beartooth Pass will be open in time for the weekend. Right now, the Montana Department of Transportation Billings office told me that by today, plow crews had the road clear up to Vista Point. MDT told me that they expect to get to the Montana-Wyoming state line in time for the weekend to have the pass at least partially open. Red Lodge businesses hope that tourists will still make the trip, even if the sun isn't necessarily shining.
We have a couple of slow months from April till, I would say, at the end of May with Memorial Day, but we usually expect some really big numbers. It usually coincides with Red Lodge graduation, especially if the weather is still bad. You don't have the people who are going to come camping even, so we're a little bit concerned. Rough start, but I'm sure it will pick up.
With all this talk of snow, it begs the question, with a town that has a storied history as a skiing destination, what do skiers think about getting some fresh turns in May?
I mean, it snowed. Why not ski? It's powdery and soft and fun. It wasn't actually, it was really good actually.
Yeah?
It was really fluffy and perfect.
Obviously they love it, but the lifts stopped turning in April, so how do you get up the mountain?
After school, we came up here with our moms and the dogs, and we decided to hike up.
In the skiing world, this is called earning your turns. It's not easy work, but the reward is well worth it.
If you don't ski, ski, because it's the best thing in the world.
At least someone's having a bit of fun. In Red Lodge, Mitch Laggy, MTN News.
And just a reminder, crews still hope to have the Beartooth Pass partially open by Memorial Day.
And for the latest on the weather scene tonight, Q2 Chief Forecaster Bob McGuire is here to show us the watches and warnings that are already in effect. Bob.
And we're going to show you the snow is still falling up there right now. Let's go to the Doppler radar first. You can see we showed you where Red Lodge is, and of course where the ski board is, that's where the mountain is. So yeah, they're still getting fresh snow up there, but look down in the valley, it's all coming down as rainfall down there. But as we pull back a little bit, I want to show you what we have up at the Beartooth. That's a winter storm warning until 10 a.m. Thursday morning. Looking for a foot or more of snow up there. Boy, it's been coming down. Same thing at the Crazy Mountains and also the Bighorn Mountains. Meanwhile, you can see in the area highlighted in green, that's a flood watch. That remains in effect until Saturday. We're looking at the small streams and rivers there getting ready to go out of their banks, but the Yellowstone River is not included in that flood watch. But the Little Bighorn River, that is, they're forecast to go above flood stage on Thursday. In the meantime, let me show you what's happening here tonight. Doppler radar shows you just copious amounts of rain just kind of wafting in from the southeast. We'll have more on that coming your way and why it's doing that in a few more minutes.
All right, thanks so much, Bob. Well, another big change in the top leadership position at Billings Clinic, but this time not a big ceremony or fanfare. The Billings Clinic Board of Directors announced this afternoon that CEO Dr. Randall Gibbs' contract has been terminated effective immediately. Now, the hospital not releasing any details surrounding the firing of Dr. Gibb. In fact, stating in a press release, due to confidentiality, details will not be provided. The Board of Directors has named Drs. John Schellenkamp and Robert Merchant to serve as co-CEOs as the hospital makes another major transition.
So clearly there's always anxiety anytime there's changeover. But again, the majority of our programs are run by our VPs, and they are doing an incredible job. Those are the people that our staff look up to. They look up to their managers. I mean, the real leadership is provided at the local level, the management level. That's what leads our patient care teams. And those aren't changing. They're going to get the exact same support that they have been getting from their directors and the VPs. We've got really strong teams throughout.
Now, the hospital will begin a nationwide search for a new CEO. That position must be filled by a practicing physician. Dr. Gibb joined Billings Clinic in 2006 as a gynecologic oncologist and was named CEO in July 2017.
Busting at the seams. Tonight, we're taking you inside the Billings Police Evidence Facility to show you just how congested and filled to the brim that space is.
A change could be on the way. That is, if city leaders can formulate a plan to fund a new facility after already approving a concept. Q2's Andrea Lutz is here with a look. Andrea.
Russ and Jeanelle, as Billings grows with no slowdown of crime in sight, those who work in the Billings Police Evidence Locker are finding it increasingly hard to manage important pieces of evidence with what little space they have left. So as a new city budget gets closer to being approved in June, the hope is that council will include $3.2 million to finally break ground on a new evidence facility.
Packed to the brim.
At some point, I have to grow.
With little space left.
It should be in its own contained area and locked.
Lieutenant Mitch Hart walks us through these constricted and congested aisles filled with evidence.
Our desks are in the evidence facility, which is, by standard, you're not supposed to have that.
On top of that, outside containers.
Larger items.
Used as overflow.
We need a place to hold it. This is all sealed out.
So Hart presented city councilors with a plan to rebuild a new evidence facility in the same place this one sits. And council even approved it. But what's left unknown, how to pay for it.
I mean, we're general funded. As they say, it's the price of doing business. And you know, unfortunately, business is good now to where we have to grow with the community.
For $3.2 million, Hart says they could grow this 6,000 square feet space up to 15,000 square feet, because often evidence sits here for years.
You know, I have items in here from 1946 on. And you know, some items I can rotate and I can purge, and then there's other items, say homicide type cases, that I have to keep.
And while Hart has a plan to purge evidence often, he says eventually it catches up.
But we deal with it as best we can, and tight quarters, would it be nice to have a little bit more room? Yes, it would, but we're trying to do the best we can with what we have right now.
All right, so the new evidence facility was even included in that massive capital improvement plan. That one was recently approved by the council, so the council will set its 2020 budget sometime in June. We'll let you know when that happens and if the evidence facility does indeed make it in. Russ.
All right, thanks, Andrea. Well, after months in a Utah hospital, Montana Highway Patrol Trooper Wade Palmer will finally return home. Trooper Palmer's doctors say he's ready to transition to the next phase of care. Palmer will be flown to Missoula tomorrow, and a motorcade will take him home where he'll begin outpatient therapy. Palmer's been hospitalized since March 15th when he was shot in the neck, face, and head after locating a suspect involved in a road rage shooting that injured two and killed one there in Missoula. Now, a procession will begin around 2 p.m. and will take Trooper Palmer from Missoula to the North Star hangar there, and through town on his way back home. Public is invited to view that procession along Broadway Street between Reserve Street and McCormick Street, and they will then take the trooper to Stevensville, and we'll have live coverage tomorrow starting on the MTN statewide noon news.
Activists on both sides of the abortion issue took to the Yellowstone County Courthouse lawn this afternoon. Part of a nationwide effort called Stop the Ban had Planned Parenthood of Montana and other progressive groups across the country protesting 7 recent abortion bans, the most recent in Alabama. That law, the most restrictive. It criminalizes all abortions in the state unless the pregnancy poses a significant risk to the woman's health. Doctors who perform the procedure can be sentenced up to 99 years in prison. The CEO of Planned Parenthood Montana says it's important to let politicians know that this is not what the American people want or stand for.
So I think it's important to know that this is not something that happens just in other states. It's not something that just happens in the South. It's happening across the country. And we need to make sure that we are very loud and proud about our support for women and all people's right to make their reproductive health decisions.
And there were also anti-abortion activists also protesting today. Now, Montana had 3 abortion-based bills passed through the 2019 legislature. Governor Bullock vetoed all 3 earlier this month.
Well, even though we saw some rain today, that didn't stop St. Vincent from celebrating National Emergency Medical Services Week by hosting its annual barbecue. for all EMS providers in surrounding communities, to thank them for their service and dedication to our communities. Dr. Barry McKenzie, the trauma medical director at St. Vincent, says that 80 to 90% of EMS provided in the state of Montana is volunteer. And today's barbecue was just a way to celebrate them.
These men and women, they have regular jobs. They're trying to run a farm, run a business, and then they go out to help their neighbors to help provide EMS service for them. But also, I'm spoiled. I have all this staff. I have a warm environment. I'm not out in the middle of this kind of environment pulling somebody out of a house or out of a vehicle. It's really difficult work. It's very stressful work, and we're just very fortunate and very appreciative of the level of service that these guys can provide before the hospital.
There are around 257,000 EMS personnel in the United States.
Straight ahead on tonight's Q2 10 o'clock news, Governor Steve Bullock went full speed ahead on his recent campaign trip to Iowa, but Montanans are putting on the brakes and wondering who's paying for his security.
And later in sports, Scott shows us why Pepto-Bismol may have saved the state tennis championship for Q2's Athletes of the Week.
You're watching MTN News with Jeanelle Slade and Russ Riesinger, Storm Tracker weather with Bob McGuire, and sports with Scott Breen. This is the 10 o'clock news on Q2, Montana's news leader.